Story number 1, Synchronized Arrival. I've been doing this job for 8 years, and I know my own routine better than I know anything else. 6:40, 3 in the morning, downtown Minneapolis parking structure, level 3, same spot every day. It's not something I think about anymore. My body just does it while my mind is still half asleep, running through the day's pitch meetings. The silver sedan first appeared on a Monday. I remember because I was running 2 minutes late, unusual for me, and I pulled into my space feeling slightly off balance. The sedan was 3 spaces down, nose pointing the same direction as mine. A man sat in the driver's seat, older, maybe mid-50s, dark hair graying at the temples. He didn't look at me. I didn't think anything of it. Tuesday, he was there again. Same time, same space, same position in the car, hands on the wheel. By Wednesday, I'd started noticing the pattern, but it didn't alarm me. Minneapolis is full of pharmaceutical reps, insurance adjusters, corporate types. We all work the same hours. We all park in the same structures. It's the nature of the job. The city runs on routine. I told myself this was just mine intersecting with someone else's, nothing more. Thursday morning, I watched him exit his vehicle, just as I was opening my door. The timing was precise enough that we both stepped onto the concrete at the exact same moment. 2 car doors closing in rapid succession, the metallic echo bouncing off the pillars and ceiling. It sounded wrong somehow, too synchronized, like it had been practiced. I glanced back at him. He was walking toward the elevator, same direction I was heading. His pace matched mine. When I slowed to check my phone for a message from my boss, his footsteps slowed too. I told myself I was imagining it. People naturally fall into the same rhythm in confined spaces. It's a thing. I'd read about it somewhere. At the elevator, I pretended to search my bag for my key card, even though I knew exactly where it was. I needed an excuse to turn my body slightly, to catch his reflection in the polished metal doors. That's when I saw his lips moving, not speaking. Moving silently, forming words without sound. His eyes were focused on me, and his mouth was working through something, like he was narrating what he was seeing. I watched the reflection, trying to read what he was saying, but the angle was wrong and his lips were moving too quickly. I reached for the elevator button, and in that same moment, before my hand actually moved, I saw his lips form the shape of the word. Reach, or something like it. My hand froze. Then I shifted my briefcase from my right hand to my left, and I watched his mouth move again. 1 second before the motion happened, I saw the shape of it shift. My heart was still normal. My breathing was still normal. But something in my chest had started to tighten, a small knot forming just below my ribs. I checked my watch, a habit, completely unconscious, and his lips moved again. Check. Watch, or maybe just the time. I couldn't be sure, but I was sure he was doing it. I was sure he was mouthing my actions before I made them, like he'd seen them already, like he knew what I was going to do next. The elevator arrived. I stepped inside and pressed the button for the 15th floor without looking at him. The doors closed before he could enter, and I stood alone in the small metal box, feeling the weight of something I couldn't name pressing down on my shoulders. I didn't go to my office. I drove instead, straight out of the parking structure, straight onto the street, heading north toward police headquarters on South 5th Street. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my mind was moving very fast now, running through possibilities, rejecting them, running through them again. Coincidence. Timing. Pattern recognition. The human brain is wired to find patterns even when they don't exist. I know this. I studied psychology in college before I switched to business. I understand how fear works, how it hijacks rational thought. But I also understand the difference between a pattern I'm imagining and a pattern that's real. I parked in the police station lot and called building security from the lobby. I gave them my name and my office location and told them what I'd seen, trying to keep my voice level and professional. They said they'd pull the parking structure footage from the last 5 days. They said they'd look into it. They said I'd done the right thing by reporting it. Then they called me back 40 minutes later. The security director's name was Tom. He asked me to come back to the building, to his office on the 2nd floor. He said they'd found something, and he needed to show me in person. The something was my Outlook calendar. It had been forwarding to an external email address for 3 weeks. Every meeting, every location, every arrival time, every movement I made during the day, logged and sent somewhere I couldn't trace. The forwarding rule had been created from inside the office network. From a computer on my floor, Tom showed me the IT report. The rule had been set up from a workstation in the cubicle area during business hours, using my own login credentials. But I hadn't done it. I knew I hadn't done it, and Tom knew I hadn't done it, because the timestamps showed it happening while I was in client meetings across town. Someone had accessed my computer while I was gone. Someone who knew my password, or someone who'd found a way around it. Someone who had been documenting my schedule, my location, my routine, down to the minute. I didn't go back to the parking structure. I took a leave of absence and stayed in my apartment for 4 days, trying to think through what this meant, trying to understand what I was supposed to do with this information. The police said they were investigating. They said they'd reviewed the parking structure footage and identified the man in the silver sedan. They said they were looking for him now, but they haven't found him yet. My calendar is still there. My office is still there. My routine is still there, waiting for me to resume it. And somewhere in this city, someone knows exactly when I'll be in each place, because they've been watching me long enough to memorize it. I haven't driven past the parking structure again. I don't know if the silver sedan is still there at 6:40, 3 in the morning, waiting in the same spot, or if he's moved on to someone else's routine now. I only know that I'm not going back to find out. Story number 2, prescription timing. I pulled up to the drive, through at 9:30 on a Thursday night. The air was still warm, that dry desert heat that doesn't cool down even after sunset. I'd been coming to this pharmacy for 3 years, always the same time of month, always for the same prescription. My anxiety medication. 20 milligrams of sertraline, 30 tablets, refill number 47. Linda was working the window. I recognized her voice before I saw her face. "Hey, how are you doing tonight?" she said through the speaker. "Good, just picking up my usual," I said. There was a pause, longer than normal. "Okay, so I'm looking at your account here," Linda said, and something in her tone had shifted. Not alarm exactly, but a careful kind of caution. "Did your friend already pick up a duplicate order? We filled one about an hour ago at our Scottsdale location." I felt something tighten in my chest. Not panic yet, just a small knot of wrongness. "No," I said. "I didn't authorize that. Must be a system error." "That's what I thought, but it's showing here with your full information. Name, birth date, insurance. All correct." I sat in my car with the engine running, the air conditioning blowing recycled air at my face. I told myself it was probably nothing. Pharmacy systems glitch all the time. Someone fat, fingered an entry or the computer duplicated a transaction. These things happen. Can you check the footage? I asked. Yeah, let me pull it up. You want to come inside? I parked and went in. The pharmacy smelled like plastic and something chemical mixed with the dust that gets into everything in Phoenix. Linda was at her computer, and she turned the monitor toward me without saying anything. The footage was grainy, the kind of security camera that captures movement more than detail, but I could see it clearly enough. A man in a gray zip-up jacket, the exact same jacket I was wearing right now, walked up to the counter. He was holding something, maybe a prescription slip. His face was turned away from the camera, angled down slightly, but his build was similar to mine. His hair color was similar. His posture. I stared at the screen for what felt like a long time. That's not me, I said. I know, Linda said quietly. I've seen you 100 times. That's not you. I froze my insurance account right there in the pharmacy. Linda saved all the footage to a flash drive and told me to take it to the police. I drove home checking my rearview mirror every 5 seconds, convinced I was being followed, though I saw nothing but empty street behind me. My house was locked. I checked it twice before going inside. Everything looked normal. The living room, the kitchen, the hallway. I went to the bathroom and opened the medicine cabinet. My pill bottle was there. White plastic, orange label, my name printed on it. I took it down and opened it under the desk lamp in my bedroom. The tablets inside looked right at first glance. Small, white, round. But when I held one up to the light and compared it to the one I'd taken that morning, I'd kept it on my nightstand, a habit from when I was first diagnosed and paranoid about forgetting doses. I could see the difference. The new ones were slightly more yellow. The edges were less defined. The texture was different. Someone had replaced my medication. I sat on the edge of my bed for maybe 2 minutes without moving. Then I went back to the bathroom and really looked at the medicine cabinet. The back panel. I ran my fingers along it and felt something I'd never noticed before. A small hole, maybe the size of a pencil lead, drilled clean through the back, leading into the wall space behind the cabinet. An inspection camera. That's what it had to be. I called the police non-emergency line at 11:15. The dispatcher took my information and said an officer would call me back. While I waited, I searched the wall space behind the cabinet with a flashlight. I couldn't see anything in the darkness, but the hole was definitely there. Someone had drilled through from the other side. The guest bedroom was on the other side of that wall, the guest bedroom I never used. An officer called back at 12:45. I explained everything. The duplicate prescription, the security footage, the replaced pills, the hole in the wall. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "We'll need you to file a formal report," he said. "And we'll want to see that footage and the pills. But I have to be honest with you. Without evidence of who did this, or proof that someone actually entered your home, there's not much we can do immediately. Have you noticed any signs of forced entry?" I hadn't. The locks were all intact. The windows were closed. "I'd recommend you change your locks tonight," he said, "and maybe stay somewhere else for a few days." I didn't go to a hotel. I sat in my car in my own driveway at 2 a.m. with the engine running and the doors locked, watching my bathroom window. The house was dark inside. Everything was quiet. The desert night was the kind of quiet that makes you hear your own heartbeat. I kept thinking about the pills. How long had someone been replacing them? Weeks? Months? I'd been taking them every day, swallowing whatever someone had put in that bottle. I didn't feel sick. I didn't feel poisoned. But that was the thing about poison, wasn't it? Sometimes you don't feel it until it's too late. I thought about the man in the gray jacket. How he'd walked into that pharmacy like he belonged there. Like he was me. Like he had every right to take my medication with my name and my birth date and my insurance information. I thought about the hole in the wall. At 3 a.m, I called a locksmith. While I waited for him to arrive, I sat in my car and watched my house. The windows stayed dark. Nothing moved. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was looking back at me from inside, waiting to see what I would do next. The locksmith arrived at 4. I paid him in cash and changed every lock on the house. I didn't go back inside until the sun started coming up. Even then, I moved through the rooms quickly, checking everything twice. The guest bedroom was empty. The wall behind the medicine cabinet was just drywall and insulation. The hold was still there. I called in sick to work. I sat at my kitchen table with the replaced pills in front of me and tried to think about who would do this. Who would know my name, my birth date, my prescription details? Who would go to the trouble of drilling through a wall and replacing my medication and walking into a pharmacy wearing my jacket? I still don't have an answer. The police took a report. They reviewed the pharmacy footage. They found nothing on the other side of the wall except empty space. No camera, no wires, nothing. Just a hole that someone had drilled and then apparently abandoned. I haven't taken any of my medication since that night. I'm not sure what's in the bottle now. I'm not sure what was in it before. I've been awake for most of the last 72 hours, and the anxiety I've been managing for 3 years is coming back in waves that feel like drowning. But at least I'm awake. At least I'm aware. At least I'm still watching. Story number 3, departure match. I take the same light rail every morning. University Street Station at 7:45, northbound to downtown. The platform smells like wet concrete and coffee from the stand near the turnstiles. I've been doing this for 3 years, and the routine is so fixed that I barely notice the other people anymore. They're just shapes in rain jackets. But 4 days ago, I started noticing the woman in the yellow raincoat. She boarded my car on Monday. I remember because I was standing near the doors, holding the pole, thinking about a grant narrative I needed to revise. She got on at my stop, which made sense. Everyone at University Street is heading downtown. She stood maybe 6 feet away, near the window, and I didn't think about it. On Tuesday, she was there again. Same yellow coat. Same general position in the car. Wednesday, the same thing. By Thursday, I'd registered the pattern enough that I was aware of it, but I rationalized it immediately. She probably works downtown. Probably lives near me. Probably takes the same train because it's the most convenient option. That's how commuting works. You see the same faces. It's normal. Friday morning, I decided to board one car earlier than usual. There was a crowd gathering at my normal spot, and I didn't feel like standing packed in. I walked up 2 cars and stepped into a quieter section. The doors closed. I was looking at my phone, reading emails, and then I heard the familiar sound of someone boarding. I glanced up without thinking. Yellow raincoat, 30 seconds behind me, standing in almost exactly the same position relative to the doors and the window. I told myself it was coincidence. She probably just boarded from a different entrance. The platform is long, but my stomach had already tightened a little. I was aware of her now in a way I hadn't been before. Monday of the next week, I got off 2 stops early at Westlake. I didn't plan it. I just thought I'd grab coffee from a different place, somewhere closer to the station. I stepped onto the platform, and within 5 seconds, I heard the doors open again behind me. I didn't turn around immediately, but when I did, she was there. Yellow raincoat, walking toward the escalator. The same direction I was going. I took the escalator up slowly, watching her in my peripheral vision. She stayed about 15 feet back. When I reached the top, I turned left toward the coffee shop, and she turned left too. I stopped abruptly and pretended to look at my phone. She slowed but didn't stop. She walked past me, and I caught a glimpse of her face for the first time. Pale, blank expression. She was looking at her own phone. Maybe she lived in this neighborhood. Maybe the coffee shop was her regular spot too. But I was starting to feel it now. That specific sensation of being watched. Not the abstract paranoia of city living. Something more direct. The next morning, I did something deliberate. I waited on the opposite platform. The southbound train, the direction I never take. I stood there with my coffee, trying to look normal, trying to look like someone who just changed their routine for a regular reason. The northbound train pulled in across from me. I watched the doors open. I watched people board and exit. And then I saw her. Yellow raincoat. She was waiting on the northbound platform, but as the train settled, she looked up. She looked directly across the tracks at me. For maybe 2 seconds. Then she turned and crossed the platform. She walked down to where I was standing. She positioned herself about 4 people down from me, still on the southbound side. My heart was doing something wrong in my chest. I was trying to breathe normally. I was trying to tell myself there was still a reasonable explanation. Maybe she lived on the south side and was just switching her route. Maybe she'd seen me and thought she knew me. Maybe. The southbound train came. I didn't get on. I let it pass. She didn't get on either. She just stood there, looking at her phone. I walked away from the platform. I walked up the stairs and out of the station into the drizzle. My hands were shaking slightly, and I was angry at myself for it. I was angry because I couldn't explain what was happening, and I couldn't explain why I was so certain something was happening. I walked 3 blocks and ducked into a coffee shop, not one I usually go to. I positioned myself at a table where I could see the entrance clearly. I ordered a coffee I didn't want, and then I asked the barista, quietly, to call transit police. The officer arrived maybe 20 minutes later. He was young, professional, and he listened to me explain without making me feel like I was being paranoid. He took down my information and asked for my ORCA card. He scanned it on his tablet, scrolling through something, and his expression changed slightly. "When's the last time you checked your card activity?" he asked. "I don't usually," I said. He turned the tablet toward me. There were 2 columns of data. Tap ins and tap outs from my card. But some of them didn't make sense. There were entries from times when I was sitting at my desk at work across the city. There were entries from lines I'd never taken. And there were clusters of them, multiple taps within minutes of each other, on different lines, at stations I'd never been to. "Your card's been cloned," the officer said. "Someone's been using a duplicate. 17 times in the past month. Different lines, different times. It's sophisticated. They're not just writing. They're trying to blend in." He filed a report. He gave me a new card. He told me to monitor my account and call if I saw anything else unusual. He didn't tell me who was doing it or why. He didn't say whether they'd found the person or the duplicate card. 3 weeks later, I was on the evening train heading home. I'd been nervous every commute since the incident, but I'd forced myself to keep riding. I couldn't let this change my life. That's what I told myself. A woman boarded at my stop, gray raincoat this time, not yellow, dark hair. She was holding her phone up at a specific angle, the way I hold mine when I'm checking the time or reading something quickly. She stood in a position that gave her a clear view of me without seeming to look directly at me. I didn't recognize her face, but I recognized the angle of the phone. I recognized the way she was standing. I got off at the next stop, even though it wasn't mine. I walked 3 blocks in the rain before I stopped, breathing hard, trying to think. I didn't get back on the train. I called a car service instead, something I almost never do because I can't afford it regularly. When the car arrived, I sat in the back seat and watched the city move past. The driver didn't ask me anything. The rain kept falling, and I kept thinking about the fact that I still didn't know her name, or why, or what she wanted. I just knew that she was still out there, and that she knew how to follow me in ways I couldn't quite see.